And in those moments, I feel like my mind is my own worst enemy. Hey, I'm Shae. I'm a feminine embodiment facilitator, author, and self-development connoisseur. Oh, I like that. I'm a self-development connoisseur. And on this channel, I talk about how to feel more feminine, vibrant, and yourself. But beyond the femininity aspect, I also just speak to anyone willing to listen about how to feel more grounded and safe in yourself and essentially heal from that which is holding us back. This is going to come in my next book. I don't yet have a title for this, but it is based on my course that I had created, Rebirth and Rise. My first book, Grounded Goddess, my little baby right here, is about becoming more grounded, feminine, fully expressed, and using goddess archetypes to do so in a very practical way. So this book has within it so many exercises, journal prompts, guidance to self-reflect your way into more freedom. This second book is so much more about how to untether ourselves from the binds, the things that are binding us, the things that are locking us down, keeping us small, making us feel limited, making us feel trapped in ourselves, in our patterns, in our stories. I don't know about you, but for me, I know that if I let myself get carried away by the stories that I have that are distortions of experiences, and then my mind tries to put some meaning onto them and create some stories about it and tell myself these stories. And these stories are often, if they're coming from a place of past experiences that have hurt me, the stories are trying to protect me from something. But usually the stories are not helpful for me. Maybe they'll protect me from what might hurt me by blocking off, right? By running away from something. But a lot of the time, these stories are really shitty stories to hear. They are not stories I want to hear. They're not stories that empower me. And in those moments, I feel like my mind is my own worst enemy. I feel like I'm trapped in a space that is created from myself, that is keeping me in the dark, in darkness, in dark feelings, in dark experiences. This program that I created was really based on things that I'd learned over the years about overcoming limiting beliefs, working with our core wounding, and how to create different patterns and actions and habits and ways of responding so that our triggers aren't the thing controlling us, our stories aren't the thing controlling us, but rather we are back in the driving seat, empowered and able to work through conflict or difficult situations with a much clearer perspective and not carried away by stories that hurt us. And I'm going to share with you a candid story, one that I'll share in my book. When I was very, very young, my mother decided that she was not going to be a primary caregiver, and she left the family. And I can say all of the stories about her experience, but keeping it very objective, my dad raised me and my brother. Now, as an early child who did not have the ability to understand the complexity of life and people and their decisions, I had the imprint of experience of my mother leaving. I had the imprint of being abandoned. I had the imprint of not being wanted. And so what that imprint did was give myself a story to tell. I have an experience and then I tell a story about the experience. We have been doing this in humanity for millennia, I don't know, a very long time. We have an experience, something happens, we tell a story about it. That is how we make meaning, and it's how we process reality, through story. That story can be very accurate and objective, or it can be very subjective and very different depending on who is telling the story or to who you're telling the story. So basically what happened is that I then told the story that I was abandoned and I was not wanted. That story created a belief. So I went from experience, story, belief. It formed the belief within me that I was someone that was not wanted, that I was someone that would be abandoned. I believed that people would abandon me, people would not want me, whether that was a partner, a friendship, a job, anything, that I just wasn't wanted. Our beliefs drive our action through the way that we respond to certain things, through our triggers, the things that we feel. A situation happens and we have a very strong response that's driven by our beliefs about the world and ourselves. So my beliefs were formed, and then it solidified my identity. The way that we believe ourselves to be, the ego identity, which in the self-development world can be a little bit confused, I believe. People think that the ego is a bad thing. We need to eradicate the ego. But to exist and function in this world, I believe we need an ego. We need a sense of self. We need a sense of self that has values and beliefs so that it can drive action and decisions and help us to navigate the world. But if we are egocentric or we are lost in the ego, that can blind us. That can be an unbalanced way of moving through life because we are only trying to protect ourselves. Basically, it limits our perception of what is happening and other people's perspectives. What happens is we form an identity based on our experiences, stories, beliefs. Experiences create stories, stories create beliefs. That is who we believe ourselves to be. So in this case, that experience here created my story. I was not wanted. Created my belief, people do not want me. Created my identity, I am someone that will be left. I am someone that is not worthy of being wanted. I am someone who will be abandoned. That really happened, and that is a core wounding that I continue to be aware of so that it does not influence me and impact my life, but rather it's something that I'm aware of, that if those stories start to come out, oh Shae, remember, you're someone that will be abandoned. I then have an observer view of this and go, oh, that's the me who had that old story, but that's not the me now. And the reason why I use that language is because I like to work on the identity level. Just as much as it helps me to work on the story level, changing the story of my mother simply could not take care of me because of her desires, preferences, her ability, her capacity, her confidence in herself, and what she was doing in her life and what she wanted. She did the best she could with what she had, and what she had drove her to not take care of us. And can you see how that story is very different to I am not wanted? Already, when I tell that story, I'm no longer the person that isn't wanted. The identity that's created from that story is very different. Similarly, if I am a person that is very much wanted, that's part of my identity, then that story, it doesn't hold true anymore. It's very interesting because when I work with limiting beliefs and creating new empowering beliefs, I don't actually work on the belief level. I work on either the identity level or the story level, both usually simultaneously. And I try to really look at, what am I believing about myself? Who do I think I am? Who am I? Now, if we go all the way beyond belief, perception, stories, straight down to the core of it all, I just am. I just am. I am. And some people take this route of pure consciousness, I am, to help them. For me, that hasn't actually helped me as much. It can help me with a really high-arching overview, but when I'm existing in the world and responding to someone saying something that triggers that I am not wanted wound, it doesn't help me in that moment to rest into I am. It helps me in that moment to work on a more grounded level playing field of human perception and work with my identity and stories. The reason why I have shared all of this with you is to, one, share with you that I am writing a book on this. Two, to share with you that this does work and helps me very, very much. It enhances my relationships to a level of empowerment within me. I truly feel empowered when a difficult situation arises that starts to trigger that wound in me. And when I can look at what's being triggered and why, and when I can work with myself and realize, oh, okay, this is happening. Oh, of course I feel like that, because that story was something I told myself for a long time growing up. And that's okay, I'm a different person. I'm really not that. And this is why I truly think that all of the self-development we can do is really about taking away the distortions, untethering ourselves from these binds, letting go of what isn't us, of the identities that aren't actually truly us. They are if we believe them to be. But we get to choose who we are. We get to feel into deeply the possibility of who we can be moment to moment. We get to decide that by stripping away all of the things that we had decided before. We're already actually deciding that. We're already deciding who we are Most of it's just subconscious. When you realize that you have the power to not be bound by your stories, your wounds, your very difficult traumatic experiences, you have the power to move beyond that. It's a feeling of pure power, empowerment. That is truly what I believe as empowerment to be. Freedom. Freedom of binds and limitations. Freedom of self-imposed binds and limitations. We can say others impose them on us, but we're the ones who accept what others say about us or not. We're the ones who accept the beliefs others might hold and start to take them as our own. Radical responsibility without shame and guilt and self-blame, but radical responsibility is truly empowerment. There's so much more I could say about this, hence why I'm writing a book. If you're inspired to already start going deeper in yourself, and if you are someone who is drawn to that feminine embodiment aspect, being able to express more of yourself and looking at where your binds are and looking at where your limitations are and why you might have created those self-protection mechanisms, you can already start with my first book, Grounded Goddess, right there. If you're interested to stay in touch with what I have to share based on this video and you liked it and it was a little bit your vibe, then you can subscribe and hit the bell notification. I have not even been asking that in my recent videos. I forget to, but I know that when I'm watching a YouTube video and someone's like, hey, subscribe, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I want to stay in touch with you. And that's when I actually do it. I'm like, oh, that reminder actually works. Thank you for being here. I hope this sparked something in you that made you feel hope, possibility, and empowerment. And I'll speak to you soon.